So,
Oh, I gotta pop out my chat. I just realized I tried to. Oh,
Michelle,
I
don't
have
you
to.
also change your name to Skullgirdle?
Oh shit! No, I never have. How do I do
all right, so we are live on YouTube,
Hey, no
that?
pressure.
Where
and
did you do that? Let me see if I can change my name. More.
The little
Edit.
buttons.
I can edit my picture.
Hmm.
Who cares?
so
Nah, that's fine. But School Girdle is my channel name. I mean, people call me that, and it's fine. But all right, why are we? Why do I not see it yet? Oh, because there's like a 5,000 minute drag.
right. So we are also live on Twitch, but
Hey.
Cool.
there we go.
I see us on Twitch. I don't see us on YouTube.
Oh man, I updated the stream
Oh,
name.
Azzy, will you let Nosferatu in?
Oh yes, of course. Sorry,
Will you please let in the vampire?
I have to
That'll
be
be fine.
invited.
It'll be fine.
That'll be fine. For some reason, it did not update the stream title,
So it says weekly news.
and now we're black. Where is the damn Zoom stream? Oh no. Okay,
Okay,
I
let
may
me
have
see if I
broke
can
it.
get. Oh, okay, I can get to the live streams.
I
Let's
may
see.
have broke it. Sorry, let me fix it.
It says live now.
I know, but I think I messed up the video.
Oh,
Um,
Hello, we can hear you, but you're quiet. We're working on the video. Oh, it's black.
yeah, it's black. I think I know how to fix it. So you guys are gonna get to see like Twitchception for a sec. And there
Oh
we
my
go.
God, please.
Okay,
That's my favorite thing.
Twitchception.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got. Okay, it's coming back. There we go. Of course, I can't hear anything. I have it on mute because otherwise I can't figure out what's happening. Let me pop out the chat. There's people in there.
Yes.
Hi, people.
oh,
God damn it!
Hey.
My okay, so I can't do. Damn it. Okay, so I'm having some problems with OBS. Just give me one sec.
I'm feeling better about all my audio issues right now.
I just need to not touch anything. That's what I need to do. Oh,
Okay,
that was weird.
I've got my YouTubes open.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so Zoom is being incredibly difficult right now.
Oh,
Yeah, Zoom, your video has gone black a couple times.
Yeah, I've seen that. I'm trying to fix it. See, I didn't have this problem last night. I wonder if it's because
Yeah, Twitch just has
Are
you
the
using a
Obscura
restream?
Undead.
Yeah,
And oh, I forgot. Twitch does the chat thing weird. It's like if you ever watch it on your phone and stream it or cast it to your TV, every time you go back and forth, it restarts your chat, so you've
Okay.
lost it all.
I need to not touch anything, and we should be fine.
Okay, yeah.
So it's all good now?
I think so. I'm
Good.
afraid to touch it, but I can see it.
Good.
I think that the reason why it's struggling is because I am currently logged into Twitch and YouTube, also looking at the stream at the same
Yeah.
time I'm streaming.
Yeah, OBS gets, well, you'll understand soon.
Well, I was.
I'm not saying my machine's not a piece of shit when it comes to sound. Okay, so hey everybody, this is Obscura Undead, Subculture Shock. And this week we are discussing Black Lives Matter. And you can't discuss Black Lives Matter without discussing racism. And I feel like we need to discuss racism within the goth scene anyway, as often as possible. So with the introductions, I'll just start. I am Michelle or Skullgirdle within the goth, and I'll be your host this evening. I have a YouTube channel. Woo! Next.
Our mouse.
Mouse is a special guest and part of Obscura Undead, actually, but not usually part of this live stream, and also an accomplished DJ.
Thank you.
I guess I'll go next. My name is Gabby, Tampa Bay resident. I've been a friend of Mouse's for a few years. Occasional performer, healthcare worker, an apologetic metalhead, and that is me.
Yeah.
And this is my partner, Christian.
Yeah, Christian.
Azzy, you have to go sometime.
I have to go sometime? Okay. I am Azzy, also Obscura Undead, which was co-founded with Mouse. That's it.
Okay, and Nosferatu, can you introduce yourself, please?
Everybody, my name is Nasre Faratu. I am the, where do I start? I'm a mom of two, so that's why you can't see what's going on here. They're running the household at this time. I am a goth vegan chef. I am an activist. I am a speaker. I am an LGBTQ activist as well. And I'm originally from Nigeria, currently living in Atlanta, and cannot wait to get out of here because I don't like it.
All right, so a weird question. Did you try to vote yesterday?
I did, but I did it via mailing. I did it via the mailing ballot, so I did not have to deal with the, excuse my language, the lack of a better word, the clusterfuck that took place down there with voting.
Yeah.
It was absolutely horrendous from what I saw. I did have family members down here that tried to vote and they had the same problem. It's just, I don't even know what to say. And the government down here is not the greatest. They don't really care to work in the benefit of people of color down here. So they knew what was happening before this took place. And so I really think they were trying to, with COVID, mask that as, oh, they didn't have time to get things right. So it was just unbelievable, but I voted via mail-in ballot.
Yeah, I would say it was one of the more successful voter suppression tactics I've seen in my lifetime.
Yes.
It was bad. Yeah, if you haven't seen it in the news, Georgia voting was a joke. People waited 6 hours to vote, I think.
They were turned away as well. Like they couldn't wait that long, and they were turned away. They couldn't wait. So there were machines that were down, and it was specifically in the minority areas. So this was planned. This was definitely planned.
Right.
Yeah, there were like 14 or 16,000 people for one polling area. And that's one polling place, not one section. So all these polling places, because they closed so many polling places and then the machines didn't work. So there were 14,000 people trying to vote in the same place.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy.
It's almost like there's a movement going on for people to be treated equally in the spirit as well as the letter of the law. And then there's doubling down on it from the opposition.
Right.
The racist system. Okay, so we're, great way to open it. We're talking about Black Lives Matter, y'all. And obviously, it seems like a simple statement. If you take the denotation, it just means Black Lives Matter. But we have a lot of people out there saying all lives matter because they can't fucking figure it out. So you could just say to your friends, this is for the white folks, by the way, to your friends who can't figure it out, Black Lives Matter too, or Black Lives also matter, or let's actually treat Black lives like they matter. Anyway, soapbox done. Okay.
I think that there are non-people of color who they don't know any better and they'll use the All Lives Matter hashtag, and the All Lives Matter idea didn't exist until Black Lives Matter did.
Yeah.
And so it was created as an opposing force to quiet the movement of Black Lives Matter. So when you use it, it does the opposite of Black Lives Matter. So it just means that people don't understand what Black Lives Matter is trying to do. And it's a fight for equality. It's not trying to put Blacks or people of color above anyone else. It's, can we just have the same American dream as everyone else? That's all it is.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually, I'm not very like politically, I'm not extremely active, but when all of this stuff started to blow up, it kind of made me rethink what I had thought previously about like Black Lives Matter and what people were saying with like all lives matter and you know, what about everyone else? And I was actually trying to explain it to Chris. You know, with you know, there with all lives matter. Sure, there are those people that are saying, well, you know, like Mouse said, it's not, you know, everyone should have a say. Everyone matters, but the whole point of all lives matter, I feel, was, you know, like Mouse said, is in opposition to Black Lives Matter. There would not have been all lives matter if there was no Black Lives Matter.
Exactly.
And I didn't I kind of saw people trying to like, when Black Lives Matter first came out, and I saw that a lot of people were kind of trying to demonize it and undermine the true basis from which it started. It's easy for someone to say, well, Black Lives Matter, well, all lives matter, and people who haven't looked into it or people that don't understand, they're like, well, yeah, that makes more sense than Black Lives Matter. And then, you know, so it's part of it is purposefully trying to undermine the movement. And then another part of it is like ignorance, like people who don't want to look further into what does Black Lives Matter actually mean. And so they get swept up in the all lives matter thing and further gets it further and further away from the point. And this is the first time, you know, all the protests, this is the first time where I've seen people really be comfortable and really try and understand what Black Lives Matter actually is. Because before, whenever I saw it, it was either mainly like in the Black community trying to lift everyone else up, and everyone who, people who were not part of that community, to them it was something that was like scary and radical. And now people are starting to like look into it. So
now that it's so widespread.
Yeah,
I do think that, unfortunately, touching back to what you did say, my husband is also white, and you know, he's always been an advocate. It was funny because he really did not know or grow up in an area where he was exposed to a lot of people of color where he grew up. And this is his first relationship. You know, we're going on 10 years of marriage come this month. Yeah, thank you. So he had to have an eye opener because, you know, we have 2 children, and had to see, okay, so our children are fair, but their features are their mother's features. I am Nigerian. They have curly hair. They have, you know, curls in their hair. You know, they're tall, and, you know, they're going to ask the questions as they're going to get older. They're going to look at certain things and say, well, this person looks like daddy. Why is this happening to somebody who looks like mommy? And you're going to have to be open. It's going to be a difficult question, but you want to get uncomfortable, because if you cannot embrace and look that straight in the face, you're being complicit. And one of the things that I've noticed, and my husband just said, he said people the white community has to look at this, because he said maybe COVID was a good thing. I see where he's coming from, but I'm like, well, no, what do you mean in that sense? He said because people normally will go about their daily lives and they wouldn't witness what they saw happen to George Floyd, and have to sit and watch that and know and let it trigger something. We have had enough. You cannot stand there and say all lives matter. While just like you said, absolutely, all lives do matter. But if one is being marginalized, is being targeted, is is being abused, is being disenfranchised, no life matters until Black lives matter. It's not a threatening thing. You do have the opposition that's like, oh, well, white people, white people matter. And what about this? I'm sorry. You guys have had a 365 for how many years? That's not what this is about. This is about equality down the line. There is nothing wrong or shameful to ask for that. And I stand really strongly with that. My grandfather fought against the British for Nigerian independence in the 70s. So I learned early on what you fight for. And when you want something that's about, you have to cause a riot. We're in Pride. Pride was Stonewall happened with a riot. It's not about being violent or destroying things. If you're not going to be heard through any other means, if this is going to catch your attention, then if we have to be loud in this way to get your attention, then so be it. The beautiful thing about this is that this has sparked so much change in a short period of time. Is it over? Are we done? No. So people must realize and not be lax and say, oh, okay, we're good. This is it. We are far from done. But this has opened so many eyes to just people, humanity in general, that books about inequality and racial injustice and how to be a proper ally, books are flying off the shelves.
Yeah.
And this is something that we have never seen in our lifetime. Is this promising? It absolutely is, but we still have a lot of work that needs to be done.
I totally agree. And one thing that I was thinking about, I think it's funny that I'm kind of, I agree with what you said that, it's really awesome that people are looking into it and, buying the books and watching the movies and talking to people. But how long is it going to be trendy to be into Black Lives Matter? Like, less than 2 months ago, we were introduced, we found out about the pandemic, and people were freaking out. They still are, but it was the only thing that people could think about, and they were terrified and they were washing their hands. I work in healthcare, and there are so many other communicable diseases that are common that we see in the hospital all the time, that we have to go through the same protocols that we do for patients that are have like the COVID-19 now. But it's right, a couple of months ago, everyone was like, stay 6 feet away from me. I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to cover my sneezes. Like, cool. This is the same kind of like respiratory, like germ etiquette that we've been trying to teach you for a while. This isn't the first like communicable disease that we've had. But now, with things opening back up, like, people have kind of, at least in the States, people have kind of decided that COVID is no longer a threat, or it's not applicable anymore. Like, I remember there was one week I went downtown and there was barely anyone down there, and the people that I did see were wearing masks. And now I drove downtown and like people are out in restaurants and bars, and like they don't care anymore. No one's wearing a mask. No one's like being vigilant when it comes to this. And I really hope that I see the same kind of trend with people being aware of Black Lives Matter. And I really hope, like, now it's hard for me, at least. I'm not very active on social media, and sometimes I can see people being very, very passionate about it and really digging into it and trying to find out what it's all about. And I also see people who are just doing it so that they don't get called out, and that to make them look like they are. I've seen like brands, do just kind of like post the black square, or else, just so that people won't like come at them and be like, why didn't you say anything? Da, da, da. Like, right now, I love that people are getting passionate about it, but I really hope that it's not just a trend for the next month. And it just seems, from everything that I'm seeing online, I really hope that it's not something that dies out soon. Like, the same passion is something that I feel the Black community has had forever, and that other people are starting to get attuned to. And I hope it's not something that dies when it's not interesting anymore to be about Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had the same thought, and I thought, I as a person who tries to be an ally to everybody who wants equality, do y'all think that part of the going back and also keeping up momentum? Do you think that part of the problem that a lot of people have with the All Lives Matter and the I know to avoid you now, back the blue people, do you think that they're thinking that equality for all people means that Black people are just going to come back around and oppress, just like Black people have been oppressed by the white people? It's kind of like, does equal rights to the person who's way at the top of the tier, are they thinking that once people have those equal rights, then they're going to be pushed to the bottom and it's going to be a tyrannical oppression for them? Do you think that's part of the response? And also, how do we keep the momentum going?
I think that there is a fear that people think that that's what's going to happen. When you just said that there's a movie, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it. It's based on a book, but it's called White Man's Burden. And there was a movie adaptation done with it it starred Harry Belafonte and John Travolta.
Yeah, that's
And
old, right?
yeah, it was pretty much the reverse. It was like, what if people of color were in power? It was completely reversed. And and we know that it is stated that white people are going to be a minority. So it played off of that scenario. And I think that that is something that deep down people are scared of. And it's not that, there was a young woman who was interviewed and she said, it's lucky that all we're seeking is equality and not revenge. And when she
That
said
was
that, it
good.
hit. Yeah, it hit
Absolutely.
because, you know, we as Africans in diaspora, because we were brought here by force, that's 400 plus years that we're going on of the same thing. You still have
Mhm.
slavery being done via the jail systems. You still have numerous ways of keeping us down. So what we're seeking is equality. You have to understand that the anger that is there, it is justified. But what we're wanting and we're calling for is equality, not revenge on people. We don't want that. You do have some that are in those mind frames that are looking and saying, well, that's what we want, but that's not what the majority of us want. We just want to be seen as human beings. We want the same equality that this set of people have. You know, Melanin is the only thing that is separating us. We are darker because of the fact that we lived in a climate where we were exposed to heat. The only reason why you have people that, as you go down where the melanin is lighter, is because of where they travel to after leaving the continent. That is it. That is it. There's nothing to fear. To it's um it's something that has been ingrained um in generations of white people that have grown up, because you have the younger generations now that are seeing this and they're even being kicked out of their houses. I've seen the TikTok videos where you have white kids that are being kicked out of their houses for supporting Black Lives Matter. They are being disowned. They are saying, you know what, fine, disown me, but I know that this is wrong and you're not going to change my mind. They're opening up. But when you have parents and grandparents who are not that way, they're still living in that old way of thinking. That's when it's been ingrained. It's just generation to generation and to generation, because children, when they're born, they're not born with hate in their heart. They're not born to hate another Black child or another an Asian descent or Hispanic. They're not born, they don't see color, they just see another person. So to bring that big fear of thinking that, oh, it's going to be completely flipped and, Blacks are going to run everything and it's going to be, we're going to be underneath them and, we're going to lose power. That's the exact same thing that led to the Tulsa massacre of 1921. That's what resulted in the burning down of Wall Street. We were freed as slaves, tried to build ourselves up. They did not like what they saw. They burned it down. They bombed us. Why are you so scared? What is your fear? It's so deeply rooted that
But it's
I don't
also
even know.
fresh wounds.
This is a good start, but there's so much, and that I'm hoping, as a mother of a 6 and a 7-year-old, that the future is brighter for them, that this is something where they don't have to worry about, where I don't have to sit down and show them something and them ask questions or cry. You know, it's gotten to the point where I think everybody is waking up, where Sesame Street is doing a stop racism, they did a stop racism town hall with CNN, so that kids are asking questions. It broke my heart when they said, here's another kid who has a question. 8 years old, young man, he said, how do I do it where I'm not scared about going outside, where I won't have to be killed just for being Black? And I broke down into, this is an 8-year-old. We have a lot of work to do. And unfortunately, it's going to have to take that generation with the old and very toxic thinking to fade away if we have any hope. Don't get me wrong, there are some within this generation that still have that thinking. It does not help that there is a current fool in office, and I will say it, there is a fool in office right now who is stoking this fire, and so are his followers. So there's a lot of work that has to be done, and unfortunately there is that fear. That's why some like to stay complacent and complicit, because they don't want to do anything that's going to cause the people to, you know, they don't want to help in that quote unquote, oh my God, they're going to take over type of mindset.
Well, as a white person who has, we'll just say, spoken out in the workplace, which has got to be one of the scarier places, your white coworkers will frequently argue you down.
Yeah.
And wow, trying to explain Rodney King back in the 90s, because once you see the video, you're like, I don't give a shit what that guy just did. They didn't know about anything that he'd done in the past. They knew about what he had done that 5 seconds ago. That guy wasn't fighting back, and they're throwing him over the back of the car and beating the shit out of him. He didn't do anything. But trying to explain that to the white folks that I worked with at the time, all they would talk about was whatever rap sheet, history of drug abuse, whatever it is. And I think that we have some people that are starting to come out of that. When I say people, I mean white. I'm a white person. That's my experience. Finally starting to come out of the idea that because this person had committed a crime, and that's a whole nother 5 set of books and encyclopedias of why that happens, but that the incident is separate. You know what I mean? It's like, even if they had stolen like $50,000 worth of guns down the street, the police seeing them come out of, well, we'll just go with the current one, a store where somebody suspected there was a counterfeit $20 bill, which turned out to be real, by the way. Then this person is dragged to the ground and eventually killed. If it was me, that wouldn't have happened. I'd have been questioned, let go home. The bill would have been investigated, and I would have gotten called later had it been counterfeit. The disparity there is painful. And the suspicion and the amount of, let's see, harassment of all sorts is crazy to me, and it's in the media. And as a white person who was raised being told all the time that I wasn't racist by racist parents, one more subtle, one overt racist, it's kind of that thing. The white people are raised, in my experience, y'all, because this is my life, that the darker the skin, the more violent and dangerous the person. And that just occurred to me not long ago, that how it works when you're a little kid. Like, for instance, my mother, the non-racist, we would drive through downtown Milwaukee. And downtown Milwaukee is a largely Black neighborhood. It was called the core. The neighborhood where most Black people live was called the core. So fine, we're driving wherever, and we're driving through that neighborhood, which I always thought was really cool, because I've always liked people who are different than me. I think that's interesting. Anyway, as a little kid, we had to lock our doors because it was automatically dangerous. And we're told we shouldn't be walking there at night. Nobody said outright, you need to be afraid of Black people because they're Black. But I was raised in a way that those subtle racist ideas were ingrained from a very, very young child. I remember this from being 7 and 8 years old, to not be alone pretty much with Black people, because when my mother had us lock the door, when you looked around, that's who was around. It wasn't said outright. Well, okay, it was by my dad, but but at that point, I had never heard those kind of things said out loud or done out loud. So when you start stacking all of this stuff up, there's a lot of unlearning for us white folks to do.
It is built into our society. Segregation ended 56 years ago, which means my mother was alive, my grandmother was alive, the president and all the people in office, they were alive when segregation was happening. So they grew up on these notions that this is the way it is. The people that are like me are here with me, and the people that are not like me are over there. And we ended up in these bubbles. We know about the bubbles, where you only surround yourself by people who agree with you and have the same experiences as you, and you end up not being able to interact with anybody who doesn't look like you, and you grow up that way. And these are the people who made our television shows, and they made everything that we've seen in the media. They made everything that we touch, everything that's in our lives. And until those fade away and the new generations grow up and start rebuilding everything, we're going to be stuck in that same structure until the end of time. So it's something we have to unlearn when we pass on to our children, and it's something we have to undo. But the first thing is admitting it. So it's not that you are racist. There is an in between. There is something called unconscious bias, which I had to learn about as part of my work, which I'm not going to go deeply into my work, but it's a concept that almost everybody has, and it automatically makes them judge somebody differently because they don't look the same as themselves. So you may have a bias that's unconscious or subconscious, but that doesn't make you racist. And every single person is going to say, well, I'm not racist. And then they're going to dismiss the issue. But if they understood that there was something else, another degree that they do have, then they could admit it, and then they could learn to fix all of these items that are like built into our society. Yeah. I'm done.
Right.
So on what you just said, I feel like a lot of people just paint everyone with like a big brush of like either being 100% racist or not, and that kind of like, I don't know, brings like a bad taste of the whole the whole effort to people that are not like very familiar with it, in a sense. Is it, the same thing with the people that would use all lives matter that are not really familiar with why it exists and all that. And I kind of like, I've been in the country for 10 years, and back when I first heard about all that, I was like, yeah, of course all lives matter, but like basically, as time went by, I just learned more about it, and now I get it. But like back then, I wasn't really like in opposition to anything. It was just like it seemed as like a more like all-encompassing positive thing in a way, being somewhat separated from the politics of it all. So yeah, that's that's what I got to say.
Well, I think it's hard for people outside the US to really understand why Black Lives Matter is so important. Because it's like the first time I saw it, I was like, well, of course Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. It makes perfect sense. Everybody matters. But, it's kind of like that whole thing where you kind of get it when it really clicks what is being said, and then turning around and finding a way to explain it to the people who willfully are ignorant. And I think you're right. Nosferatu, they're probably just going to have to kind of die out, some of them.
Yeah, it's going to take that, and I think when you just touched about when this has spanned, the entire 50 states, but it's also spanned, I think we're on 20 countries now. And I was talking to my cousin, Oba, in Nigeria, and I said, where are more of us on the continent? Why are we not joining in solidarity? And he said, we are. We are. They're protesting in Nigeria. They're marching in solidarity. And I said, okay. So when I did some investigating myself, I saw that there were 2 marches going on in Nigeria. And then there's another one, I think it was in, there was some map that I saw that's showing where all of these protests are happening. I think the other one was in the Sudan. And so I was looking the rest of them, like, in Europe they're marching, here in the United States they're marching, and then they're marching in South America. I'm like, why is there only 2? Where are you guys? Like, why is there less noise being made at home? And that's something that, I adamantly spoke. Like, I don't bite my tongue. I'm not a quiet individual. If I see something, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to speak on it. And I told him, I said, I want to see a video. I want to see that, because this is now, we are looking, this is for human rights. This is just equality, period. But there's a big thing, unfortunately, where Africans don't think that African Americans care, and vice versa. And that's a big divide that still plays part to this day. I said, if you have countries around the world, most of Europe, who are seeing this and they're like, this is wrong. We are standing in solidarity. There are people of all colors coming together, all races, to say this is wrong, equality now. You guys need to make sure that you are being seen and we see you here. Because I don't want to hear anything about, oh, nobody cares if it's something going on there. When the 50 girls were missing, we here in the United States were up in arms. Bring our girls back. Where are they? We were marching here. So it needs to be where everybody opens their eyes. Everybody. They never hear. I call Nigeria all the time. I'm like, where are you guys? Where are you guys? Make yourselves seen. Because I don't want to hear you complain at all. Because this affects you guys. This affects your children. You guys come from Nigeria to do business or go to school here. So it does affect you. Don't think that you're over there and it doesn't. And this is your brother. This is your brother and your sisters that are losing their lives. You need to make a stand and show in solidarity that you will not have it over there. You will not have it over there either. You will not have it here in the States for us. You will not have it there either. Because there have been Nigerians that have come here and been killed. What's going on in China? Same thing. You need to stand and say enough is enough, just like we are doing here. Solidarity needs to be felt around the world. I'm working on home. That's the other place that I'm working on, because it needs to be that it is seen across the globe. And then I think that people are waking up, and then you have a section where it's almost complicit as well. We want to talk about, people of color, but then you also have those that are people of color who are also being complicit. And that needs to change, because they either think, just like you said, there's a perception, what did he do? What was his rap sheet? I'm like, you are just 2 shades lighter than me. You have some nerve. You should be saying, if this happened to someone that you know, how would you feel? Would you like it if I came up to you and said, oh, okay, well, what gang was he in? What was he stealing? That's sad that he got beaten up. That's sad that he was killed. We saw the murder, but what did he do no, this is a human being. That shouldn't be your first thing on your mind. We got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm done with
Well, no,
Yeah.
speaking of rap sheets, because my statistics are old and I can't remember them. There is a much higher, depending on where you are, astronomically higher chance of being arrested for being alive while Black. And once you're arrested for whatever bullshit charge it is, your chance of conviction is something like 4 times greater if you're Black than I don't know if it's whites or if it's everybody, because if you're Latino Hispanic, you also have a much higher rate of arrest and incarceration. Like I said, it seems to go on a scale from the darker your skin is, the more likely you are to wind up in jail. And these are like bullshit charges, y'all. It's like, for like the woman who went to jail for 6 years for lying about her address so her child could go to a better school. I mean, who gets arrested for that? That's a fine, and you send the kid back to their shitty school. Even if there's a fine, everything I've heard of, they send the kid back to the shitty school and it's over. You don't go to jail for that. Why is that woman in jail? But now she's got the whole rap sheet. So, of course, with some people who want to know about the rap sheet, it's fine to kill her if she gets stopped by a cop for traffic. And in the case of Sandra Bland, why was she asked to get out of the car? I've been told by police officers, don't get out of the car if you're asked, unless you can get a second cop there, which, oh my God, if you are a Black person in this country, please don't do that. But you're not supposed to get out of the car. You're supposed to be safe. I mean, the woman's visibly shaking. She's trying to smoke a cigarette inside her own goddamn car. Why was she asked to get out of the car in the first place for a broken taillight? So those rap sheets to me are another sign of bullshit. And as people are saying, the slavery through imprisonment, because people are making money. We got private prisons now, so we have more people in there. And who's the most vulnerable? Who have we kept the most, well, poor? Who have we given the least opportunities to? That is just a big fat pile of mostly free labor and a lot of profiteering, which is slavery.
Yes, it's just another form.
There's something else too, where more Blacks get killed. More Black minors get killed. More get killed in custody. More get killed unarmed. And that goes back to that sense of, well, we don't really know the root of it. There's a lot of different reasons, but one of those major things is that sense of danger, that automatic sense of survival instinct. If you're a police officer and somebody comes towards you and you don't know what their intention is, but they look like you, your reactions are completely different than if somebody comes at you and you don't know what their intent is and they're Black or they do not look like you. Instead of asking questions, being calm, or even if something crazy happens and you just like shoot them in the foot, these people are getting killed in massive numbers, and those statistics are everywhere. So while a non-Black person may get shot, other people that are Black or people of color killed. And that's just, police training is one thing that needs to be repaired, and that's being worked on. But it's that innate sense that we have of danger because we cannot relate to people that don't look like us. And that's a sad thing. I too have a white husband. I grew up in white suburbia, so I'm surrounded by white friends. And I have this constant sense of paranoia and feeling that I'm not good enough because of, I know that when I look at somebody in their face, they see somebody that doesn't look like them. So I'm constantly questioning people's motives. I'm constantly questioning if I'm good enough. And I can't even imagine what people are asking themselves if I do something that's slightly negative. There's nobody who's going to take my side because they're not thinking on the same page as I am. Or at least that's what they think. They think that I'm not on the same page with them. So,
Mouse, do you feel like a token? Do you feel like you're asked to do things or participate as the token? We'll go with darker skinned person, Black person, generally.
Sure. Yeah. But I don't have any reference levels. I don't have anything to compare it to. I'm the only one of me in my circle. I mean, I know Gabby, my beautiful friend. I can count on one hand the number of Black friends that I have that are here with me. I don't know where the others are. I mean, unless I go to a hip hop club, but I'm usually in the goth clubs. So in the goth clubs, you've got 5 at most that are in the scene. So when I show up, I don't see anybody else. I don't see anybody else in my goth community. I don't see anybody else in my neighborhood.
Well, are you talking at the castle?
I'm talking about goth clubs across Florida.
Okay, because I was just gonna comment on the size of the castle. It is the biggest goth club I've seen, and we have a big one in Dallas. It's like double the size of the church, triple maybe. It's massive, y'all. And I don't remember seeing but one Black person who wasn't you there when I was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was one, but she left due to constant conflicts and fights at the club. And that has 100% to do with her color. And she left.
I've had a different experience. Like, I'm really sad to hear that happened to her, and that was why she left. I usually, like, you know, when I'm at the castle or if I go to a show of a band that I like, I'm usually one of a small handful, and by small handful I mean like 3 or less, of darker skinned fans. But I kind of thought about what I've been hearing in terms of like people who are having a hard time or being harassed or you know, just because of the color of their skin in these spaces. And I fortunately haven't had to deal with that. Usually if I go to events or to like clubs and things like that, I'm usually with friends. And so you know, I'm not extremely like social with other people. So usually when I'm out, I'll be talking to my friends, and I don't really see or feel that kind of animosity. I do feel like I do know that our, like, you know, I draw attention to myself just by being me, even if I'm not like wearing anything extravagant or, you know, whatever, like just because of the fact that I'm there in that space. I draw attention to myself, but I don't feel it as much because I'm focused on whoever I'm there with. But I have heard and seen a lot of really awful things that people, you know, about, you know, people being harassed, people being not being included, and you know, I'm thankful that I don't have to go through that, but I think that the more that people are aware of what they're doing, and like you said, you know, when you see someone and you make that snap judgment, like, should I be afraid of them, should I trust them, why are they here, should I go talk to them, like, you know, I think that people should be aware of what they're feeling and figure out why they're feeling that way, because that can, and if you truly are wanting to be all inclusive, and if you truly, you know, you say you're not racist, or you're very, you know, you're open-minded, I really think that even if it's uncomfortable, you have to start thinking and being aware of how you react to someone that's different from you in a space that you feel comfortable in, and figuring out what's appropriate. And, you know, if you do want to approach them, like, would you be approaching them the same way you would as someone that looks like you, because that can make a huge difference to how I react to being in that space. If you a lot of times when people come up to me, like, for example, like at the I work at the Renaissance Festival, and I just see myself as a big nerd, and I love it. I love just being there and just being with other people who are like huge nerds. I love it. And so I'll go and I'll dress up in like, I'll try and be like elaborate and wear, I'll be in like a demon costume or just something like interesting. And the first thing that people come up to and say to me, they're happy that I'm there, but they're like, oh my gosh, what a Nubian queen. We're so glad you're here. And I'm like, why am I a Nubian queen? Like, can I not be like the like demon princess? Like, you know, why do you have to specify like I see that you're here in this space with me. Sorry, what?
It's just an echo.
Oh, okay, sorry. So it's like I'm here in the space with you. I'm here to enjoy myself, and I'm here to share in whatever the space has to offer. But the you know, knowing that the first thing that you see about me is my color and not the effort that I put into my costume or you know something like that, it just kind of makes me more aware that people are looking at me and I guess judging me because of the color of my skin and not the fact that I'm into the same things that they're into. If that, I don't know if that makes sense, but that makes me like hyper aware of, well, oh, maybe I need to, you know, I don't know what people are thinking of me when they see me, so maybe I have to, you know, I don't want to make people feel nervous, like, you know, and then I start like overthinking, like, how am I supposed to act when I'm in this space? Like, am I supposed to be myself? Because people, the only thing that people see about me is my race. You know, how I start questioning whether or not I am supposed to be here and whether or not people will take me seriously. And it kind of it's I've learned, I've had my process of dealing with it, but I don't know, I think that that's part of figuring out how to overcome all of this and to work towards a more inclusive future, is just people being aware of how they feel and how they react to people, and um, facing it and talking about it and talking through it and figuring out, you know, what's wrong and what needs to change.
I I wanted to touch back in regards to your friend that was pushed out of the community because of her skin color. Um, Mouse, just like you, I grew up in the suburbs. Majority of my friends were white. I was the only. I went to, predominantly white schools. You had the black kids, you knew who the black kids were, but I was not one of them, considered one of them because I was a goth. So it's just like you didn't fit in with your own. And so I had my friends and we called ourselves the Breakfast Club because we were just, a smorgasbord of just kids that just felt like loners, and we were all individuals and we were just there by ourselves. But I was the only black one in the group. I was the only goth one in the group. And going to the goth clubs, because I lived in Michigan, the goth scene there was pretty wide, and you did have a lot of more people of color. They were sporadic, but they were there. I went with my friends, so City Club, which is no longer City Club, has been taken over by a group of kids who just came in and was like, this is a cool place, hey, and now it's no longer a goth club. So that's been, they infiltrated and took it over. But when I went, I was also in a goth industrial band because I'm a musician myself. So I didn't get the goth scene. Being a part of that scene was a little bit different. I didn't have anybody who would make any comments like, "Oh, you're so pretty as a black goth," anything like that. I guess I was a little bit more intimidating, so they either would leave me alone or there was that weird fetish. And I'm like, that's not, don't, is it because I am a black goth that's here compared to other girls? So now that you see me, you want to bet it? No, bye. That's not what here. You will see me as just another person. We can talk. You can be friends. Cool. But if you're having some type of, fetish or sexual fantasy about it just because I am a person of color who's goth, you're coming at the wrong one. That's a no. But I didn't have any issues. I will say that the issues that I did discover here in Atlanta, by the way, it's very, there's not many, areas here. Um, but the problem that I have is that there's a lot of online bullying, and you find it within the goth scene, you find it within these groups. You find very startling where they are calling, goth is just strictly white, you know, you don't belong, we don't want you in here. It's just, so you're sitting behind a keyboard to make all these statements. Is this validating? Do you feel good about doing this? I mean, the N word is thrown around. I've seen some of my friends, their pictures have been, grouped up in these pages that are saying, we don't want, goth is just white only. We don't want blacks here. The N word this, monkeys were called, all these negative names. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I've had people that have sent me private messages and they're in tears just because they are enjoying something that everyone can enjoy. Who made you? All these gatekeepers. I'm like, who told you that someone could not be a part of the subculture because of the color of their skin? There's something around, I'm so goth I was born black. It's true.
Amen.
So you want things straight here. It's like, so back it up. But it's just, it's just that type of, you just, how fearful are you of this? I'm an 80s baby. There were people of color within the scene before we were born. But before these, people want to get online and sit behind a keyboard and be on IG and all these kind of stuff, coming up with these names before then. So it's like, what are you validating for? What joy does this bring you? Are you going to think that you're going to shut me down by your words? I grew up very sheltered, and I've been bullied, growing up the entire time, from kindergarten on through high school. And so I had a lot of issues with anxiety. I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I had moments where I just stayed away. I kept a very small group of friends. I was very much a loner. And then it wasn't until I, felt more comfortable not only in my own skin and who I am, and then, of course, being within the subculture, that I was like, I'm not going to accept someone else's judgment or their picture of me. Let them validate by their words. They have issues. I don't have issues. They have issues. They need to deal with that. Keep that in the back. Keep that bottle up, or go do something else. But do not come at me with whatever your insecurities are and try to throw them at me. A lot of it is their insecurities or their jealousy. And it's sad, because no one should be chased out of something or an area or safe space that they love. No one should be. It's sad that is occurring. It's popping up even more so, I've noticed, as of lately within the community. It's gotten bad.
Online?
Bad, yes.
I feel like I've been, I guess the nice thing about being online and like being able to search things on like Instagram and Pinterest and stuff like that is I can sort of pick and choose what I want to see. And so going with what you said about goth having a certain look, or like people who are into rock music or stuff like that, like I've been kind of following some drama that has been surrounding certain like Instagram like goth brands, and a lot of them have been being called out because for years everything that's on their Instagram feed, everything that's on their website are a certain aesthetic and of kind of like this pale, skinny, long-haired woman, and that is what goth is. And if you are not that, you are not goth, or you're not goth enough, or you're not you can't, it's weird for you to be part of that scene. And then from there, people will say, if you're into that stuff, well, you're a poser, you don't understand what you're doing, or you can't like this because this isn't for you. And I like I said, like I'm not really on I'm not on social media. I'm not active on social media, but I love having access to it because I find validation through finding people like myself. So I'm, even though if I type in like, cute black dress on whatever, the first thing I see is just a sea of just women who are a third of my size and are very pale and just not what I don't know. uh they're not, they don't, there's nothing that I can relate to. And when that, if I scroll through pages and pages and pages and pages of that, of whether it's this a brand that I like, and I see everything that I see on that page is someone that doesn't look like me, at least I'm able to go and search. I have to put in like, black goth or black alternative black person, alternative person of color. And I realize that there's so many people that are like me, and that helps me. It helps me feel better about like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like I'm not, there's not anything wrong with me. There are people that are like me that are in the scene. And while maybe in my own community, it's easy to find a niche online and like have that insulate yourself and have that be the only thing that you see. But you can take that confidence that you find online with you to whatever scene you're in. So if you are the only black person, or the only person that looks like you wherever you are, you can still take comfort in knowing that there are people like you doing the same thing, like going out and being the only person in their scene wherever they're from, and then they come back and share their experiences online. So but I, like you said, it's I have seen a lot of bullying online, and a lot of people who still have this notion that to be part of something you have to look a certain way, and you really just, I guess, either it's unfortunate that you have to literally like be very specific to look for that inclusivity, because you're not going to get that if you type in whatever the thing is that you're trying to find. You're not going to get that. You really have to truly be searching for it, which is, I think that it's a long way before we'll get to being able to type in a term and look for makeup or look for clothing or look for a certain aesthetic and see more diversity in it. But at least people are talking about it.
It is within the God scene. It actually is. It's getting better. You have through Discovery, there are a lot of, and they're emerging now. A lot of Black brands that are producing goth makeup. There's one that I know, she goes by Glam Goth.
Oh, I love Glam Goth. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with her. I love her.
So she is the only one that I know. And then another cosmetics line is coming out in October, which is mine. And then Killstar.
What's it called? What's it going to be called?
Nosferatu Cosmetics.
Okay.
And it's a complete vegan. It's a vegan cosmetics line, cruelty free, but all shades. All the shades fit every single skin color. It was funny because I had my husband with me, and I was like, I need your arm for a minute. And I tried a palette that I had by BH Cosmetics. I said, can I borrow your arm? And he was like, okay. So I tried like one row on him, and I did the exact same row on myself. And some colors showed up very vivid on him, not so much on me. Some didn't show on him and showed very vividly on me. I said, it shouldn't be that way. If these are such strong shades, it should be showing up on you as vividly as it's showing up on me, and vice versa. And then, of course, being that I know the trick that they use in the industry, which is where they will swatch like multiple times to make it look like that's just on every arm, or they'll computer generate it to make it stronger. And I said, oh no, this is not going to work. So I said, I've been working on this for years, and finally it's going to be coming out. And it's everything that inspired me within the scene and who I am. So there's a lot of references to literature, to music, to just sites, to things that as in a goth that I love, and then even being being a Nigerian, putting my culture within those, but everybody can wear it and look absolutely beautiful in there. It is not going to be like Jeffree Star's cremated palette, which just looks like carpet swappers. It is actually something that is what a goth palette you would expect. You know, there's a lot of thought that goes into it.
Right. And isn't it awesome that you were able to have the opportunity to swatch what you're creating on different skin tones? There's so many makeup companies that are making things for certain types of skin tones, and it's a lot harder to formulate something for darker skin that shows up better on darker skin. And so, you know, some people don't take the time to try to to put in that extra effort to figure out something that is more inclusive, because it's, you know, it takes more time, it takes more research, it takes like I don't know what it takes, girl, like you're making it like, I'm sure it's very difficult. I just buy the product. I don't know the work that it takes to go into it, but I know that it takes a lot of work, and there's so many companies that don't do that. And then people are like, they don't understand when we complain that you have, you know, all these celebrities that are wearing all these like huge makeup brands that I can't wear, that I can't enjoy. It's a huge deal to have people that are actually trying to include other skin tones, because, and then, you know, because if you have a certain type of people that are wearing your makeup, that's the only people that are going to be in your ads. That's the only people that are going to think that, you know, this applies to them. So man, if I see your ads, I'm not going to want to, I don't see anyone that looks like me. It might not look good on me. I tried it in Walmart. It does not look good on me. So I can't buy it. Like, you know, so the fact that you have that opportunity to do that sets you apart from so many other brands that are not doing the same thing, and brands that have money, brands that have like power that can do that. They just don't put in the time to do that.
No, brands that could.
Yeah, and they could. And you want to make sure, like, and it's being done with heart. You know, it's something that I didn't say, okay, oh, look, there's a need for this, I'm going to go ahead and milk this. No, it says, I'm a consumer. I have spent so much money on these brands, and I'm not getting the same output that person A has. It's not working for me. So I want to create something that's going to be, you know, I have my husband is one of my testers. Okay, my little ones are so our 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, Amoha, he loves makeup, so he's in all of my palettes, and he loves the color red, and he was walking around, he looked like,
oh, now she just muted yourself.
It was the cutest thing. So it's just, you want to create something that's inclusive, and inclusivity is something that's very, very important to me, especially because, just like you're talking about, you don't see many people within the scene that look like you. There's a huge, and people always are fascinated, there is a massive alt and goth scene in Africa, especially in Nigeria. So people are like, oh really? I'm like, yeah, yeah, there. You know, it's not something that is not new for us. And you know, and then it's just, I just think, like, you know, diversity makes the world go round. It's a beautiful thing, and it's nothing that people should be scared of. And then, just like you said, with looking to finding clothing, I don't know, this was just recently, but Killstar, their models on their page, they have more models of color on their pages now.
I have some thoughts.
That's for profit.
I have some thoughts. I hate Killstar. I think they're awful.
I do too.
Really fucking hate Killstar. I don't think that. I think that it's just like a weird, superficial, like, I don't know. I don't like them. And
they're using like things like, oh, the devil and the witch and things like that. And I'm a witch. So
they're writing trends.
Yeah.
And
McGoth.
What's that?
McGoth.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I hate it. It just seems unoriginal. It seems contrived. I don't like them. But I love the drama that is surrounding them right now. I love it.
Oh, the drama
But-
is with the dolls killed.
Yeah,
Isn't there-
I did
Well-
a year ago, 2 years ago, when I was looking through, like when Killstar's been around for a while, but every single thing that I saw on their website was, like I was saying before, just like this very pale, very skinny, white girls on there, and that was the image that they pushed, and then that was the image that they put on their Instagram, and those were the people that were like the faces of their brand.
Well, you know that
And
for
now-
Killstar,
Sorry, go ahead.
somebody had complained that they didn't have enough black models, so they added
They
a
started
black
adding
tie
black
model,
models.
but he was albino,
Oh my God.
completely
Oh,
albino.
Although how cool, but still.
He was
King
beautiful.
Killstar.
Oh,
But
Of course he's
add
beautiful.
more colors, more colors.
Well, add people that look like people. When you go somewhere and you see models that look like people, it should include all the people. And that
Yeah.
includes darker skin, it includes fatter skin, it includes older skin, and it just includes
Absolutely.
everybody.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think-
as
I think
much
the
as I
black
hate
owned-
Killstar,
The black-owned labels also need to set an example by also having a wide array of shades, not just the black, because we're going to end up with more black-owned companies that are representing just black, and then more representing just non-black, and it should be a spectrum from everywhere.
Right. Set the standards.
And I get my makeup
Right.
from CVS because I can get a spectrum there.
Amen.
Because if I go anywhere else, I'm going to get just non black colors.
right?
Well, the
right.
one-
But if I go to CVS, I can get the whole spectrum in one brand.
The one that actually does set the trend in terms of makeup that goes from the lightest shade to the darkest of night is Juvia's Place.
Mm.
And she
Yeah,
is
they have a
Nigerian.
really good.
Their range is out of this world. Out of this world. And for someone who had to buy 3 to 4 different shades to try and make one shade that matched me, I used her foundation, one color. That's it. And she goes, like my husband, because when we do go out to any of the any goth scenes or events, he does wear makeup. He does his eyes and everything. He is able to find a foundation from her. And he is Norwegian, German. He's very pale. So he's able to find from her. And then I have a friend who is Midnight. She's so pretty and she models and she uses Juvia's Place. Their range is astronomical.
They
And
have an
she
next.
they went ahead and she does it from the darkest to the lightest. A lot of makeup brands will do from the lightest to the darkest. And then as a person of color, you have almost an impossible time trying to find your shade range, because then it's like, well, this is too orange for me. Well, this is too chalky for me. She goes from the darkest, and I mean, everything in between. It's like, okay, let's go from like dark chocolate to a niche up. So you're able to find your shade. It's amazing. She's the only, I love Fenty, but this is the only range that I've been able to find where her makeup has been insane, and it's not, it's just great. And it's
I see
vegan,
that
it's
now.
so great.
What's that?
I'm on her site and it has all the like faces of color, and it is the lightest light to the darkest dark. It looks beautiful.
Really?
Look at all these faces.
I'll go back and look because
also, I think one thing to point out as well is that they're
36
kind of
shades.
like with the whole Killstar thing, where people call them out on not being inclusive, so they like started including more people. I still think that it's a little contrived, like they're just trying
I do
to
too.
please the masses. And you know, they put up a black model like recently because of everything that's been happening, and they got called out for it. It was a hot mess, and I was very much there for it. It was great.
I'm
But
seeing
it's the
that
same.
as well.
I
I'm
love
actually seeing that everywhere. So
crash and burn. Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's hard for me to decide exactly how to feel.
it's almost like the
social
opposite
media and all this stuff.
of what we're looking for.
Right. But what people also don't understand is like there are like, you know, like I said, it takes a lot of work to figure out, like, especially with makeup brands, it takes a lot of research and a lot of testing and trial and error to figure out what will work, because not even you may have a foundation that works for one dark skinned person with an undertone, but it's not going to work for another dark skinned person that has like a more yellow undertone. And like it takes, there's so many brands that try and say that they have a wide selection of shades, but the shades for like the darker skin tone, there's like a small handful of them, and it works for like one or two undertones, or like, you know, it's not, they like to say that they're inclusive and they want to have that label, but it's not really. You haven't, like, there's still a lot of people that have been left out of that of your shade range. And it, like I said, it goes back to doing the research and deciding that it's important enough, to deciding who you want to sell to, deciding like who it's important to sell to, and deciding that it's important enough to do the research and put in the time to be more inclusive. And I think like that doesn't just go for makeup, that goes for and like most things, that goes for whatever you're trying to sell. But a lot of people don't want to take the time to do that because they can make easy money by appealing to, I guess, the masses, I guess whoever's most prominent in the scene. And we have to kind of figure stuff out for ourselves. I don't know. It's like it's a hard conversation to have, and it's hard to convince people that it's worth it to have it. But it's something that's so important to have, like right now when we have the stage and people are listening and people care about it and people are interested in it. Now is the time to like talk about that stuff, because half the time people don't even know. Like people don't even understand. There's so many things that like I'll explain to you that you're like, oh shit, that's like that. You have that issue. I didn't know. I'm like, I know you didn't know, because you don't like you don't like, you know, it's not that you don't ask, you don't think that it's something that needs to be asked, because it's not a problem you have to deal with. I get it. Yeah, but you should also get me.
Even this issue, just basically with makeup, not one I've ever even considered or talked about. And I've even commented to Mouse, why do you have so many shades of brown in your makeup bag? I never even thought of that, and that's something so
I get ready with 3 different shades of powder alone that goes on my face. 3 different shades. But Chris
is loving this makeup conversation, by the way.
That's fine. I'm mostly here for moral support for her.
Yeah,
good. Okay.
So, it's all good.
Like I have to talk.
I'm also annoyed that Band-Aids don't come in dark skin tones.
Yes.
It's so stupid.
To actually do that. Like somebody asked that question, why do Band-Aids not come in all skin tones?
Ooh, yes, I saw a comic strip where there was a bunch of different people sitting in the waiting room of an ER, and it was like just people from all over the world, and the nurse is coming in telling the doctor like, hey, all these people are asking for flesh-colored Band-Aids, what do we do? Like skin tone Band-Aids. And I was like, bro, and it didn't even occur to me. It's a small stupid thing. But you have a Band-Aid. I just thought they were tan. I didn't think that it was flesh tone, but there's so many people. I have such an issue with people who are like, yes, here's this nude, it's nude colored, whatever. And I'm like, honey, it's not my nude. It's like the color of my palms. Sure. It's not my nude.
Yeah, I didn't know they were flesh colored.
Think about it. It's not something that they get.
For the first time ever, ballet shoes are coming in darker skin tones, thanks to Misty Copeland. Because I remember teaching in a dance studio, and our Black students, first of all, they couldn't do the standard makeup. Luckily, I had a student in my class who was able to help everybody with darker skin with their eyeshadow and all of their makeup for stage. But yeah, everybody had to do their own shoes. And when everybody's dyeing their own little leather shoes, you have different results. One or two matched. But finally, it's like in 2019, end of 2019, I think, is when they first started to come in the darker skin tones. And there are exactly 3 of those darker skin tones, I think.
Times are changing. People are starting to, and I think now is a perfect time for people. Sure, if you get on it because it's a trend, stay on it because it's a fucking issue that you have to learn about. Like, that's my thing. I don't care how you got into it. It could have been a mistake. It could have been a fluke. You could have signed a flyer and been like, what the hell's that? But stay because you understand the issue and like want to change it.
Right.
I think that's the most important thing to realize.
Absolutely.
Well, do you think the trend, do you think it's helpful? I mean, just based on what you said, it kind of seems like yes, but the current trend for Black Lives Matter, it's trendy to Black Lives Matter.
It's making change. Change is happening. History is happening.
I definitely think it's very, very important. I don't think that hopefully people won't judge you for why you showed up, like I said, but people are buying books, people are reading books, people are watching movies, people are talking to their friends of color, people are like thinking about stuff that they haven't thought about before. And I as long as they're not fearful of like how they got to where they are, I think that even if it is a trend, I hope that it sparks something in them that resonates in them, that so that they understand like how important this is. It's easy. It's super, super easy to not care or not be a part of it or not want to be a part of it because, you know, I'm not Black. It doesn't have to do with me, like, and it seems that like they're like vilifying white people. Like, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want the drama. It's easy to say that, and it's easy to just forget about it and focus on something else. It's easy to live in a bubble of ignorance, but I think that if you're able to just even if it's just watching one YouTube video about someone explaining what's going on, and you like hearing what they have to say, even if it's something that small, I think that we can use the trendiness of Black Lives Matter to actually get through to people and make a change.
Like for more honest conversation?
I think that's what it has to do. What's that?
For more honest conversation?
Yes. Without animosity, because also what I'm seeing, and I hate this, it stresses me out, I hate it so much. People, like, if you're not posting about it, if you're not saying something, people come after you. Why haven't you said anything? I've seen so many people like apologize, like, hey, sorry, my cat died yesterday, sorry I didn't post the fucking like black square about, you know, in solidarity. Like, I think it goes both ways. Like, I don't think that people should be attacked for it, because that's not going to help. And I see so many people just like being attacked for not saying anything. And while I understand the point, of saying, like, if you're staying silent, you're not helping. I get it. But at the same time, I don't think that making someone feel shitty about, like, attacking someone for that, I don't think that that's constructive. And I don't think it helps. So it's like a seesaw. I don't know. It's hard to get a balance. But I like I said, I'm glad that the conversation is happening. I hope that it sticks and I hope that it stays. But I don't think that people easing into it and becoming familiar with it should be vilified for not being on the front lines and being out in like the streets protesting. I don't think people should be vilified for that. I think that everyone learns at their own pace, and everyone, just because you have an Instagram account doesn't mean that you have to be posting like a Black Lives Matter like black square. Like, you know, I don't I think that you need to work with people where they're at, because it's not gonna take everyone the same amount of time to get to the same conclusion.
I think being surrounded by, well, it's trendy right now, just being bombarded with it. But I think as it kind of permeates the equality, the real equality, when people start to really understand equality, doesn't mean that you're just going to try to be oppressed by the people that you just oppressed. I think that it will become easier to have some of those conversations. Because even 2 years ago, if I would try to ask a Black friend about anything about race, I would get an answer like, I don't talk to white people about race. I mean, I've been point blank told that. And I've actually seen videos of Black people upset that white people aren't asking them about race. So I think we really need to hit that balance, like that in between those two extremes balance, because it's not an easy conversation. And I have a cringy past. I'm a white person brought up by racists, of course. There's going to be some embarrassment coming in my future, possibly in the next 3 minutes. But you have to be able to kind of tell yourself you're going to do better and step back and do your best not to be defensive on any of, because it's not an either or issue. I mean, yes, either you're racist or you're not racist, whatever, but it's like everything. There's a huge spectrum of getting to where you want to be. And so I think we all need to be just try to be less defensive if possible, so we can have those conversations and take advice. Mostly white people in that one.
I think so too. I know that I've been really nervous to talk to Mouse about it, because I, for the first, couple of days thought, well, I haven't done anything that I consider racist, like, around Mouse. And then it was that same defensive attitude. Because, I don't know, I'm kind of in the same situation where I grew up in a white supremacist household. And unlearning a lot of that, it's that defensiveness, again, that's just not helping the conversation. And then I felt really embarrassed for not reaching out to Mouse sooner. But
well, now you did it.
No, I did. I love you, Mouse.
Oh.
And I think once you realize that it's not, especially if you have someone close to you or someone that you are able to reach out and talk to, once it's not hard, it's not easy to have the conversation, but once you have it and you get some kind of an understanding or some kind of at least dialogue started, like, that's worth something and that counts. And I'm sure that, I mean, you're not going to walk away from that feeling awkward, hopefully, you'll have gotten it out in the open and you can say, hey, this was something that was weighing on me, and you're able to talk about that. Like, that counts for a lot. That counts for a lot. So, but people are afraid.
Azzy, thank you for reaching out.
What's that?
I was telling Azzy, thank you for reaching out.
No.
Well, no, like I said, I love you, Mouse, and I'm glad that I got hung up on my own issues for a few days. I'm sorry I got hung up on them. Not glad. Sorry.
There are people who they don't really understand what's going on, and they're trying to ask questions, and they are being attacked online.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to encourage those kinds of questions instead of slapping them on the wrist. People actually didn't know, and they shouldn't. Not with the way that our system is and the way that everybody was raised. These are valid questions, and those conversations need to happen. It's really difficult online because everybody's watching any comments or any posts that happen. So if it needs to happen in a private message, let those conversations happen and take them off of the public forum. And people need to stop beating up each other.
Agreed. Constructive. I know it's hard. I know there's a lot of anger and defensiveness on both sides. I mean, from what I've seen with the All Lives Matter reactionaries, and that, I think, heartening thing I've seen is a lot of times when somebody on well, on Facebook, mostly what I've seen it a little bit on Instagram too, is when somebody makes, we'll call it just an insensitive statement. We're not talking about the people who are getting their hoods out. We're talking about the people who are just kind of ignorant. That a lot of times it's the white people that will step in and try to explain some things like to each other, because of course, you know, we have our cultural white shit. Like me and Azzy had some very similar things in our household with overt and what do you call it, subconscious racism. So we're going to understand sometimes where they're coming from, but then our black friends can come in and really explain it. I feel like with the white people, if for us to help, we can kind of open the door. And I feel that since we understand a little bit of where they're coming from and some of that defensiveness, because man, it is fucking embarrassing to confront your racist attitudes that you didn't even know you had. It is embarrassing. I mean, damn. And you'll be embarrassed in the future, but I'm just hoping to kind of mitigate a little bit of that uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had and kind of just grease the wheels. Grease the wheels. That's all I need to say. Sorry for the 17 paragraphs to say grease the wheels with Whitey.
So in preparation for this discussion, I was kind of looking around on some like Facebook groups that I'm a part of online, and one of them, just to kind of see the climate and like what they're talking about. So I'm a part of a lot of like metal focused groups on Facebook, and there's one in particular. It's very, very big. And I was just kind of scrolling through to see what people were talking about, what people were mentioning, like keeping in mind that it's a predominantly white male space, and kind of, you know, see what was important, what people are talking about, what they're not talking about. And I occasionally saw like a couple of posts about, you know, we stand in solidarity, and posting like the devil horns on a black background. And there's a lot of pushback saying like, you know, why do you have to mention that here? Like, we're just trying to have a good time. And I was kind of, I wasn't expecting my reaction, but like someone posted something that said like, the gist of it was, you know, I'm happy to be a part of the metalhead community because we accept everyone. Like, we all are into like weird music, and we're already outcasts, and outcasts like outcasts can like basically saying like, you know, we're part of a group of people that are not part of the norm, so we kind of get what it's like to, essentially what Black people are going through. And I was like, in what world? No, like that's not, no. And like where, or like, or you know, I have this Black friend, and they're totally like great, and I've never had any issues, and everyone like accepts everyone, and it's awesome. And I'm like, who, in what community have you been, in what metal community have you been a part of where people haven't been outright like kind of awful? Like I love being part of the metal community because I do think that people are very accepting there, and they're very kind, and they're very like, they're all a bunch of nerds, like they're all a bunch of music nerds that are into what they're into, and like that's that. But I've also, like, on the same page, I've seen people talk about the fact that like they thought that the Black person that went to the show was part of the crew, or part like the janitorial staff. And like, I'm just like, this is the same people that are like, oh, hey, sorry, bro, thought you were like just like sweeping the floors, but you were actually there to see the band. But then, you know, a couple months later, you post you put up a post talking about, we like, I love the metal community because we're understanding, and we get it, and like, you know, I'm just like, in what, where, how, when, and why? I don't understand. And it's just like I was kind of, but it, so basically like a lot of the posts that have been happening were you know, people trying to inject some of the movement like amongst the posts about like different bands and stuff like that. And it was either met with, if it was something that you didn't have to say, like horns up for if you stand in solidarity, and like everyone just put the horns, so you didn't actually have to say something. Or it's like, why are you talking about this? We're just trying to have a good time. I didn't know how to feel. It was awkward. It was really like, ooh, this is some. It made me feel like I was like, okay, you guys are not. You don't know where to start in terms of like having this conversation, because it's like you could be real cool and I could show up at a show and you could like talk to me about whatever bands I like, whatever. But it's like if you're not part, if you don't think about it, and if you don't put yourself in my shoes, or like you don't know what it's like to show up as a Black person to a metal show and have people like react the way that they do to you, if you don't get it because you haven't had that experience, like I really feel like it's you're it's kind of relying on that. Well, I'm not racist, I haven't said anything bad to people, like I don't have anything to think about, you know. It's like a weird it's a weird thing to try and like get across to people without having people feel like hostile or attacked, or you know. I'm not like that. I didn't think I was like that. It was like, I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying you have things that you got to think about. You have things that, you know, you got to come to terms with. I don't know. It's like, I didn't know how to, I didn't know how to feel about that.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing in goth. We tell ourselves that we're really tolerant, and we convince ourselves of that sort of rhetoric, and then so when anyone challenges that, to say, you know, expecting someone to work 10 times harder because of their skin color to prove that they're goth, they can't possibly conceive of it as racist, because how could we be racist if we're so tolerant?
Right. Yeah, so if a Black person comes to a goth event and is not heavily made up, if they're just as casual as the white dude next to him, people will question the Black goth, or what do you like this music and all that kind of stuff. They always think shit about the white guy.
Yeah, there's another thing that kind of I noticed online. There's a lot of girls and like women of color that are musicians, and they play like guitar and they play bass, and they put up covers of different incredibly difficult like music, like covers of different songs, or and people will be like, oh, like, you know, it's like they still question whether or not they like that music. Or I saw some posts where a girl was wearing a death metal band t-shirt, and under her photo people were like, oh, you don't really like that band, you don't understand,
like it's
you're
a
not
costume.
really into metal. And I'm like, she bought the shirt, like she learned how to play the song. Like how can you just because she's a girl, or just because they're Black, or just because they're not as white or as male as you, that doesn't mean, like, why do you question the validity of what they're into? Like, and this again, this is the same community, the same post was in that community as the one where it's like, we stand in solidarity, and it's like, well, that makes me question how serious you are about it. Are you just saying it so that you can just fly under the radar, or like, do you actually care? It's it's a different world. It's real, I don't know.
It's music. It's fucking music. You're not like born with this music already a part of you burned into your brain. It's music. Anyone can listen to it. Anyone can like it. It's fashion. It's literature. Anyone can like it. All you got to do is try it and like it.
Yeah. But I think that it's wild that, you know, you can be extremely passionate about something and be obviously passionate about it and still have people question you because of the way that you look. Like, you're not supposed to be into this because of the way that you look. I don't know. And that's something that I've struggled with as well, from both sides. And I'm sure, like, Mouse, I don't know if you've had this kind of comment to you before, but like when I'm open about the things that I'm into, and I'm open about the music that I like, I'm like the white black girl.
Oh
It's like
God, I
it's
got
okay.
mad.
It's okay for you to
Oh,
be
okay.
into it because you're the whitest black girl I know, and that's why it's okay for me. That's how I can accept you being into this type of music. And I'm like, last time I checked, I'm extra dark. I'm extra dark. Turn off the lights and try and find me. You won't.
We're ninjas. We are ninjas. You'll never find us. We're ninjas.
And I'm just like, so does that make you feel better about me being into what I'm into?
That makes them feel better.
That
Apparently,
makes them feel better. Yes.
them feel better. It's an insult to you because you're like, well, what the heck? I never got that. Oh, you're like the whitest black girl I know, or you're supposed to be, unfortunately, swept into the stereotype of you're black, you're supposed to be listening to rap. If you're white, you're supposed to listen to rock or country. You know, it's like if you step out of that stereotype that goes along with your skin, you're trying to be another race. I'm not trying to be another. I was born this way. I am happy being as chocolate as I am. Thank you very much. But my musical taste and what I read or what I like does not change who I am. You get that from the white community. You get that from the black community. Being a Nigerian, I've heard it all. Getting that from my own. And I'm like, you need to stop. That means you guys have some type of issue. It's really sad. And especially with the way that we speak. I've heard that too. You sound like a white girl. What is that?
Oh my God. Oh my God. We have.
That's my kryptonite. That's the thing that I get all the time.
I was just saying that, like, it's like that. Like, you can have a phone interview with someone, and then you get there, and they're like, where's the white girl I was talking to?
Exactly.
I hate
Exactly.
it.
They're like,
I hate it.
"Oh,
I hate it.
I have had problems at the bank. I have had problems at my work. I've had problems numerous places because they hear me, they hear this voice, they hear me on the phone, and then when I go see them in person, their brain can't connect the dots at all.
Yep.
And
I've been to so many places where people have argued with me about where I live and where I grew up because of the way that I'm speaking to them. Oh, you're not from South St. Pete, are you? I was like, been here for like fucking ever. Yeah, I've definitely 100% grew up here. And they're like, oh, well, you enunciate things so nicely. Like your diction is so good. Well, cool. Glad you can understand me.
Thanks.
Would you rather me say every other word? Would you rather me speak in tongues? Like, I don't. Why does that have to be a thing that you have to say to me? Like, just give me my like. If when I go to Publix, and I'm talking to someone like the cashier or whatever. Oh, you're not from here. Yeah, I'm from here. Can you please sell me my shit so I can go? Yeah, like just everywhere. And it's just like, and I get it. I get it mostly from other Black people, and then that's their way of I don't know. Like
that's how they cope.
It's
how everyone copes.
I hate it. Like, don't hate me for how I talk. I can't change the way I talk. I don't sound. My family is Jamaican. I sure enough don't sound Jamaican. Both of my parents are Jamaican. A lot of my childhood, I was in Jamaica, growing up with everyone else. I don't have a Jamaican accent. Sorry.
You have an American accent.
I have a very American accent. And like, it's just like that doesn't negate the fact that my mom was Jamaican and I was under Jamaican discipline. I ate Jamaican food, but no one. You just see that to the Caribbean community, I'm American. To the Black community, I am white. To the white community, oh, you're the whitest Black girl. Cool. Like, where am I? I'm in my own bubble. I'm in my bubble.
It puts you in, unfortunately, that. My mother, I was born here in the States, in the United States. When I was 5 months old, after my parents, they met in college, and then they went back. It was just supposed to be a visit, just to go back home, just to see grandparents. Well, I came back here when I was 3, so I stayed till I was 3 years old, and my mother, when she was growing up, she actually won a scholarship and she graduated quite early from high school. So she has a British accent on top of her Igbo Nigerian accent. So when people hear her speak, they're taken aback and they just stare at her. From the Black community, she is trying to be there's the African American community, they get mad at her as if they feel that she's trying to
be
one
better
up
than
them. Exactly. In the Nigerian community, it's not uncommon because you do have a lot of Nigerians that live in England. So it's not uncommon to hear, like, my aunt, my mom's sister, she lives in England. She has a very strong from Surrey, England. So she has a very strong accent. I can speak Igbo fluently. You hear me now and people are like, oh no, you don't sound like you're Nigerian, but let me turn it on. Oh yeah, now I will turn it quite well and turn it all on. And people are like, oh damn. So it's like they look, I'll have a conversation with my family and then immediately clicks on because that is my tongue. But people immediately, just like you said, you'll do something over the phone and they'll hear you. And then when you go and meet with them, there's such a gasp. Oh, I wasn't expecting for you to be Black. So one time I had an interview and she just kind of outright just said, oh, you didn't sound like a Black person over the phone.
Yeah.
So I turned
yes,
behind
that is
me.
not the only person that's had that. Yeah.
So I looked at, as I'm standing there and I'm looking behind me, I'm like, well, there's a Black person that entered here. Unless they have the same name or have a clone, you're looking at who you spoke to over the phone. Oh, I didn't mean like that. Can we continue with this interview?
Oh
Or I
my
will
God.
leave. Like, I was just so, she looked like she didn't know she should say anything else or anything like that. Because then my face just read, I wish you would say something else. Say something one more time.
But
And I walked.
that I think ties back into the massive amount of work that needs to be done to normalize everything. Like, and it's so daunting. Like, how are you, that's years and years, that's like decades, centuries of oppression and awful hatred towards people that needs to be undone. And it is scary to think about how much work needs to be done. And I mean, I can understand, like, for some people it seems impossible.
It's overwhelming.
But, I mean, I don't know. It comes back to the same thing. Like, you know, I hope that whatever this movement is, whatever these, like, all these protests and all these people, all these conversations, whatever this is, I just hope that it's fruitful and it opens up new ways of thinking, different ways of thinking, because you have to start somewhere. And you know, I do see changes every day, from differences from when I was in high school till now. Like, it's small and it's slow, but it's happening. And I just hope that this is another boost of momentum to get things going.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be harassed at Publix anymore.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Oh gosh. Oh goodness. Oh goodness.
Well, maybe instead of microaggressions everywhere you go, you'll start to see micro acceptance. Is that a thing? Little ways that people are more accepting overall, all of us.
That would be
That's
nice.
a whole thing.
Yeah,
That would be-
that's my Pollyanna right there.
What would that look like, I wonder?
I don't know.
Well, I've also not fully experienced that in very many places, so I just have a dream of a utopia where equal actually means equal.
We'll
Like,
get there.
I guess what I'm thinking of trying to compare it to is like, you know, the big push for non-gendered bathrooms and things like that for non-binary people, sex and gender issues that are have been happening. Like, what is our non-gendered bathroom? Like, what does that look like?
Just says bathroom. I'm non-binary. I just wanted to just say bathroom. Just say enter. I mean, it should not be. I think, for me, the only way, being non-binary individual, I've gone to it doesn't matter. I've entered a bathroom. If I have to go to the restroom and I'm out, I've gone to a male, I've gone to a female, and I've had looks, but even, sometimes people don't care because I'm very androgynous. So people, sometimes I've been told before, like, oh, they think I'm a male, if my hair is short. So, it doesn't bother me. I am non-binary. I identify as both. So, or not really technically having a gender, but it doesn't offend me to be told that I'm a male because I do look that way. It is both. I am both aspects, and I embrace both. But I think the reason why I do not get any flack right now is because I have 2 children. They're boys. I take them into the male. If we're out somewhere and I have to take them into the bathroom, and let's say that the women's bathroom is full, I take them to the boys' bathroom. If the men's bathroom is full, I take them to the women's bathroom. So no one says anything to me in that case, but I don't even think that it should be like that in general for anybody. I think that I'm looking forward to that type of utopia where it does not matter the color of your skin, it does not matter your gender identity, that everything can be more harmonious. Because being a queer individual is not harming anybody. It also goes back to that fear aspect. There's a fear if you're another person of color. There's a fear if you're another gender, like if your sexual orientation. And it's very sad. It's sad, and it needs to stop. And one of the things that I'm noticing is, and everybody has seen it with the Black Lives Matter movement, now Pride has tied in and they're joining in now with this movement. And it just, you almost kind of get speechless because you have inside your head what you want things to look like. And then you kind of stop because you're like, it's going to be a long road.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is what is the Black Lives Matter equivalent of a non-gendered bathroom? Like what is a tiny step forward, or what are changes that have happened that either have come from this or have come from people being a little more open-minded, like in this day and age? I'm not talking from like, we were segregated before and now we're not. I'm like, in now, like what is our triumph? What is a triumph that's come from people talking?
That's come from this. That's come from so far.
So far within the last couple of years, but I mean, maybe it might be too soon to try and look at big changes that have happened, but I don't know. I'm trying to look at in the future.
I've seen more come from the Black Lives Matter movement recently in terms of things happening so quickly now. That's a big fear that I'm having, though. Things are moving very quickly now. There are companies that are no longer, statues are being removed, which they should have been already. That's good. I think what is it that I just found out? There's a band called Lady Antebellum. They just changed their name to just Lady A.
They changed their name.
Yep, they changed their name to remove it because it's tied to the Antebellum South. NASCAR, that one blew me out of the water, where they're no longer having Confederate flags. NASCAR.
I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, the Confederate flag. They're drivers that are dropping out of NASCAR now because of that. I'm like, well, we know who you are, don't you? So they're dropping out of that. NASCAR is removing it. They just removed a statue in Belgium, the King Leopold, who did torture to the Congolese people. They just, somebody beheaded Christopher Columbus. There was a 17th century slave slave owner in the UK. That statue was removed over the bridge. They're all these statues are being removed. They're trying to change the Confederate names in army forts, military bases. What else was something that was like things are just moving.
The Navy was doing something banning Confederate flags. I think they're the first military force that's going to fully do it.
Yep, completely ban those. Something else happened. It's with businesses. Like some business. Something else happened. Oh, they're firing a whole bunch of actors. They're all being fired left and right. Any racist comment. Oh yeah, they fired someone off MTV. She was fired.
MTV is still around?
Yeah.
There's no music there. That's why you don't know.
They fired someone off of, there was like a show, they removed it from the cast. The Vanderpump Rules, they fired 4 cast members for racist comments they had made about the only Black cast member. Leah Michelle issued an apology, but she got called on her racist tweets. Someone off of the show Arrow, he was fired for his racist tweets and comments about Black. They're removing them left and right. Directors, everybody. It's been such an upheaval of removing Confederate, anything that has a racist connotation. Of course, you have government and judges that are trying to block things, but they're just kind of all just getting. I mean, it's been such an upheaval in we're in our 12th day of protest, 13th day of protest, and it's great. We still have a lot that needs to happen. I know that they're disbanding police forces, and it's so much of seeing, and just like I had my parents, my mom came here, she attended the University of Northern Alabama, and she was in her teens. She went to Northern Alabama during civil rights movement. She went through some stuff, and my father was part of the civil rights movement as well. So when I talk to them, it's like, you guys see this, it's like, this is quite quick. They're worried that this is too soon and then it's going to die. They're worried that this is just going to happen, and then once the marches do stop, the protests do stop, is this going to be lasting? Now, it is a worry that I have, but I think that we're dealing with a generation who's not going to give up. Not saying that our parents' generations gave up. They didn't, because if they had not kept going, we wouldn't even be where we are right now. Still having work to do. But I think that this is different. This is different this time, because we're not alone here in just the States. And this is the first time that it's ever been 50 states that have taken part. This has been the first time it's been 50 states plus other countries saying enough is enough. I think there's definitely it's going to be a long battle. We still fight, we still march on, we still keep going for what we need to make sure that everything does get done. We have a long battle, but we will win. But I really think that change is coming. Change is not even coming, change is happening. And we have to look at it for, what's the generation that we're doing this for? I look at my children, I'm like, I don't want to have this happen where I see them and my sons are older and I have to teach them what to do. It's really scary now. You even have to do that with little children. What happens if the police stop? Because police are hitting kids, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old. They don't care. They don't care. Yeah. So I look forward to a time where I don't have to tell my boys, you guys are teenagers, don't go out here, stay home, don't get in your car, I'll go with you. Even if I go with you, what's saying that I won't be killed? What's saying that they won't kill you in front of me? It's a scary thing to have to think of.
Yeah.
And I've told my we had a big talk. I absolutely love Matthew. I love my husband, because he's like, wherever you go, I go. And it's scary to kind of watch what's going on, because I said, we have made a backup plan. We don't know what's going to happen with this election. from what we just saw in Georgia, it could get worse come November.
Mhm.
And we have said, we will sell everything in this house and we will pack up and leave for Nigeria. We will not stay here. We will not stay in the United States. We will not. If he gets elected, because here's the problem that you have. If he loses, his base, his MAGA white supremacists, the Proud Boys, they're going to go out full out nuts. If he wins, they're going to claim victory and they're going to go and have a field day because he doesn't care. He has made it quite clear and is giving them just the permission to go out and they've already done it now. There are already militias and stuff that are going on. No police were present. In Iowa, they actually made a fake Black Lives Matter protest and were having people to go meet there. Luckily, someone got a wind of it because it was the Proud Boys that were there. And they were out there with guns full on hand. They were looking to kill any Black Lives Matter movement protesters that were coming. There were no police whatsoever there. But they're good people on both sides. I love my friends here. I love it. As a matter of fact, there are countries in Africa that are telling people, come back home. Come home. There are people that are leaving from other countries that are leaving the United States because not only are they being mistreated, but they know what's going to happen. Something's going to go down here in November. People need to get out and vote. We are not going to have this 2016 where people are like, well, I'm not for Joe Biden, but, I'm not going to vote at all. Look, I'm a Democrat. I'm an independent. There's some things about Joe Biden I do not care for, but I refuse to give my vote to Trump by not voting. And
all
I'm
those
really
protesters
scared.
went out and voted, it would be a very different world.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, us Karens over here gotta wake up.
Girl, you are not a Karen. Don't even. Don't put yourself in that.
Put yourself in there.
I'm the closest representative here right now. No, it's the women
No,
in
you are
my
Michelle.
demographic.
You are Michelle, okay?
But it's still my demographic. Middle-aged white women who fucked shit over last time.
Karen is it might be your demographic, but a Karen is very different from what you are.
Oh,
Yeah, you are not a Karen.
Right, but now I have the responsibility of getting in the Karen faces.
Well, do it, girl.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking the fuck forward to that shit.
Oh God.
I was like, I got a lot of rage. Let me direct it at you. Honestly, I think that bringing down that iconography of slavery is a really powerful start. It's just a start. There's a very fucking long way to go. But taking down the statues, like ours in Denton, is coming down finally. We have somebody who's been protesting for 10 years to get that piece of crap taken down. And they're putting it in a museum. It's got a separate but equal. And when I first came to Denton, there was the plaque that said whites only was still on it. Wow. And I feel like we need to face that part of our history, but I don't want that face to be in the middle of the town square. I'd be fine with exploding it into rubble. But we do need to face that so we don't ever go back there. But with that iconography being gone, with the Confederate flag, and explain that to the Southern Pride motherfuckers that is like the ultimate symbol of American slavery. With all of those symbols being gone, so that we don't have people who are surrounded by the symbols that give them the comfort of superiority all the time, then I feel that still gives us that little bit of an edge to keep the conversation open.
Yeah.
I hope that's, again, my utopian hope.
Well, I hope they never put that Confederate flag back up on I-4.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's the biggest flagpole you could possibly get by law.
Really?
It is the biggest flagpole you can get by law.
Wait, which one are you talking about?
In Tampa.
This is in Tampa.
And yeah, okay. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Okay.
And the flag is the biggest flag that they could possibly fly.
Yep.
According to the FAA, the air flight laws.
Isn't it like the third biggest Confederate flag in the U.S. or something like that?
They claim it's the first. It's the biggest, but
whose flag is this?
It's private property of a descendant of Robert E. Lee.
And I think it's like one of the headquarters. I think of like Daughters of the Confederacy or something
Oh,
like that, or Sons of
Jesus.
the Confederacy.
You lost.
Whatever it
You
is.
fucking lost.
Yeah, and I have a bit of sympathy for them because they are the family, and they were saying, well, you know how they spin it, that it's the history, and what they have there is a historical place and blah blah blah. And we're like, that's fine if you have that, but don't have this humongous flag that everybody needs to see, as that's a sign
Right.
of oppression.
No,
So they changed
right,
it up.
exactly. Knowing that it means something else to a lot of different, for most
They,
people.
they change it up to there's like the colonial flag, which has the first 13 states on it and all this other kind of historical stuff. So they claim that they're trying, and then they're not, and it's just an interesting just read up about them.
Couldn't somebody just sneak out in the middle of the night and, I don't know.
Well, that's why they pulled it down. They didn't want anybody to accidentally like get violent.
Paint it white, the proper color?
That thing is so high up. There's no, how on earth are you going to get there?
People base jump off of skyscrapers. When there's a will, there's a way. They'll find it. They plank on top of poles.
1 year ago in Tampa, not related, but there was a Robert E. Lee middle school burned down a year ago. Just caught on fire. I think somebody had left something on, and the firemen came out, and they kind of accidentally didn't put it out, and it burned down to the ground.
Oh, that could happen to that flagpole. Oops, I left the iron on, touching the flagpole with a huge giant cable that is full of electricity. That's 100 feet high.
Or you could throw something at it. No, you can't. How high is that flagpole? It's really high.
Pretty
It's
high.
really high.
Huge. Like,
And
they
I think you see
specifically
it from the highway. So
yeah, and it's
you know.
specifically that big. So like,
But there is a
they
way
know
that
they're
that flag
sending
is
a
raised and
message.
lowered. It ain't up there permanently. It's raised and lowered.
That's true.
It's a Confederate Memorial Park.
Is it called Confederate Memorial Park? Or does it have a Confederate name? I mean, because I am of the opinion that Confederate stuff only belongs in museums. It's creepy to collect it like people collect SS shit. It's creepy.
It's Confederate. It's called Confederate Memorial Park.
Oh, we just
It's
got
got a
suggestion
1-star
for,
rating.
drones carrying burning sticks to burn that flag.
Yes, that'll work.
Oh, or you could start a petition and see if you can get several 100,000 people. It worked in Denton.
Oh, that's.
Well, I mean, we don't have 700,000, but it worked with the statues coming down.
Oh no, there's definitely one of those like change things floating around, but I think it's a little bit harder because it's on private property.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
Yeah,
I was all excited that that flag was coming down.
it is temporarily down.
But that's been really heartening to see those flags come down.
It's been there
to keep
since
spreading news stories.
2007.
Oh, okay, because that's when the Confederate War was. Yeah, but all these memorials that are up are like our statues from 1918. That's like 50 years after the war. They're still putting up shit for Confederate soldiers. That's a racist act. That's an act to put people in their place, to remind them that this is there.
Oh, absolutely. Otherwise, they wouldn't
Same
make
thing.
it so big that you could see it from the freeway.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, they claim they have the world's largest.
Whoopity fucking doodah.
Wow, what a
The
point of
World's largest piece of
Confederate.
racist shit. That's an
Mhm.
achievement. They can invite all their little hooded friends over so everybody can be in the same place at the same time.
Oh, I love you. So
kitties.
yeah, we had to like lock her in the bedroom because she likes to destroy things. And we have like the camera stuff and the lights set up, and she would have wreaked havoc.
Is
Like,
she,
bring-
But
bring
it's been,
something down.
she was sick in the bedroom, so we let her out.
So
is she a
Neat
kitten
toys
or
ever.
is she like an adult cat with kittenitis?
How old is she? She's like she's just over a year,
Almost
so
2,
she's
I guess.
still
No?
no, she's she's about a year and a half. So
Yeah.
she's an adult kitty.
But she's not a
So
quarantine
tiny.
kitty.
Grown, but she ain't. Like
What's her
So
name?
I've noticed everybody who's on the fence has been getting cats now that the quarantine is in.
What's her
no,
name?
we got her before quarantine, but
What's her name, Gabby?
so her official name is Persephone, but we call her Cat because we don't give her any respect at all. She's just
We have
Cat.
we have a 3-year-old black cat. Her name's Wednesday. She's over here.
Yeah. Persephone, and I'm a dog person, and I've been learning. I've had a lot of I've had a lot of things to learn about life with a cat. I still think cats are weird, but I've asked questions.
They are.
I've opened up conversations between me and Chris. I haven't been afraid to address things that I thought were weird about cats. You know what? I laid it on the line, and I just decided to just have an open conversation. And I'm learning that cats aren't all crazy and evil and weird. And I'm learning. It's a long
they're weird.
process,
They're
but
weird.
I'm learning. I'm cohabitating. It's been a struggle, but she's a joy to have. As much as it pains me to admit, she's very cute, and I do love her. But it's a long journey. It's one step at a time.
Wednesday is
I
very
still
weird.
personally love my dog more than her, but oh, and look, what the hell? My dog just came out.
She just got here.
Artemis, come here. Since we're introducing pets, Artemis, come here, baby.
Artemis.
Oh, come here, pups. This is my baby,
Aww.
Aw.
Artemis. And she's 1,000 times better than any cat ever. She's a big ball. She's a big ball of nerves and anxiety, and I love her to death. She's great.
I have 3 dogs. They're all cat size and smaller though. Also balls of anxiety, and I love them to distraction.
Yes. Well, Lilith is the hyper one. She's the baby cat. Lilith is Bugs Wednesday. Wednesday's like, get out. Leave me alone. Why are you here?
Oh,
Lilith's like, play with me. Play with me, play with me, play with me. It's like I said, get out. Wednesday is staring at me right now with these very intense eyes, so she knows I'm talking about her. So she's like, what are you doing? Mom, why are you talking about me?
and as we speak, the cat started destroying all the lighting, so Chris is
Well, we probably could wrap it up. You think, Azzy?
I think so. I think we had a really nice and accessible explanation for why you should be open about cats and racism.
That's great.
Should be open about cats and start talking about race. It's embarrassing for white people. I can only speak for myself. It can be really fucking embarrassing. And there's going to be some cringe factor there, but you know what? Once your cringe factor's over, yeah, you're going to ask dumbass questions, and then your friends later, if they're like mine and they're sarcastic MFs, are going to make fun of you for saying something completely unrelated. They're going to be like, that's racist. When you're like, oh, those people over there, you know how some people like those people? Yeah, then you'll catch crap for that, and that's when you can start asking some really scary questions. Once you're friends of different skin colors, Black, Latino, East, West Asian, Near Asian, everybody, Islanders, everybody. Once you get to the point where they'll make fun of you as a white person, you're much more likely to be able to ask some of those questions that are something you can't quite research. And you should be researching. try to find it yourself, do the work yourself. And that's the reason I don't just give a big fat bibliography. I mean, you start with white fragility. Okay, let's start with white fragility and the anti-racist books. But as you do the research yourself, you'll actually get a deeper understanding, and you'll be able to be shocked, upset, and cry all by yourself as you're reading it alone. Take that level of embarrassment off.
I'm
allergies.
really happy to have been a part of this. Not even a week ago. I'm very, very I don't want to say that I'm introverted, but I don't deal with people outside of my job. I'm not extremely social, and I tend to avoid social media and interacting with people, and I'm very grateful to have been a part of this, just to first pull me out of my hole, but also to talk about things that to be completely truthful, like I was scared about talking about. And like I'd talk to Chris a lot because he has a very different perspective. Having to explain, not having to finally think about my experience and then explain it to him and then explain how it relates to the issues that are going on, and to have like a dialogue, and to be accepting of the things that he doesn't know and also the things that he does know that he's talking to me about. Like I appreciate that this made me realize how important it is and how important my experience and my opinion and my thoughts on everything is, especially being a part of a wonderful community of outsiders. It really made me truly sit down and think, okay, how do I feel about this? What's important for me to say? Where do I start? And so it's not just something for like white people to think about. It's something for me to think about as well. And I appreciate being part of this conversation. I never thought that I would be talking about Black Lives Matter at all, ever. Even though it affects me, I'm really happy to have been a part of this. This was a lot of fun, and I was very nervous and very uncomfortable, and I'm happy that this happened.
I'm glad you joined us today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Gabby. I look forward to meeting you. I don't know if I have.
Yeah. No, I don't think we have either.
Nope.
Girl, once this Corona business is over.
All right.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for the comments, for our very special guests. You guys are badass. Thank you for taking the time and being willing to get on social fucking media, especially for those of you who do not enjoy it, and discuss, a topic that is not quite yet comfortable. I think we're getting there.
I think so too. Thank you so much for having me on. It was great to talk to all of you and share our experiences and what we plan on doing and discussing the cats, and knowing that we still have a lot of work ahead of us, but we know what's needed to be done, and strength in numbers, awakening people. It's going to make people uncomfortable, but you have to break that uncomfortability to make progress.
Amen.
Right.
All right. So to everyone in the chat, thank you all so much too for being very respectful. And again, thank you to our guests. I'm gonna end the live stream here. So
Bye.
Hey, good night, everybody.